See, I didn't feel like drawing Cat Noir, so I just drew a cat's face. Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk with Tom. I'm your host, Tom. And, yeah, that's about the energy I feel like putting into the intro today. And it's my show, so that's how it's gonna be. So this was originally gonna be a, first impressions video on Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir, or Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. It's like the show's title is Miraculous, and then the subtitle is Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. I don't know. It was originally gonna be just this is just my first impressions. I watched the first season, and I'm like, well, there's a second season, so I'm just gonna watch the first season, do a first impressions, and then I realized, oh wait, the second season hasn't aired in America yet, so really, from my perspective, based on what's available to me up until March 30th of 2018, which honestly, but with how I've been recording these videos, this video might not even come out till March 30th, so I'll probably do a follow-up to this video when the time comes. But for right now, we're just going to talk about the first season. And if you're not from the United States and you've seen the second season, keep that to yourself, alright? Because I'm invested in this show. I didn't want to get invested. I didn't mean to. It just kind of happened. And now I am. Now I'm super invested in this show. I legitimately care about the characters now. So for anyone who doesn't know about Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir, that's a long-ass title, by the way. So Miraculous, it's about this teenage girl who has earrings and this floating little creature with her, and it allows her to turn into a superhero. And I describe the show as a mix of a slice of life anime and a Monster of the Week action show. In fact, this show has a lot of anime influence, I can tell. It feels like I'm watching an anime at times, which, I mean, I'm not even that big on anime. And I'm like, yo, this is screaming anime to me, especially the freeze frames at the end of every episode. Every time that happens, it gets me. I never get used to it. It's just it's ridiculous. Also, the show was produced by 4 companies, one of which is Toei Animation. Towards the end of the first season, there's a Origins episode where it shows this is how Ladybug and her partner Cat Noir got the Miraculouses, which is what they're called. And it's basically the piece of jewelry and then the little creature that comes with it that guides them. It's called the Kwami, and tells them, oh, this is what you gotta do. And Ladybug and Cat Noir, they fight against these things called Akumas, which are butterflies that are turned evil, and then they corrupt people and give them superpowers. And they're sent by the bad guy Hawk Moth, who's always just in his lair every time, using the same reused animation, which I gotta touch on that real quick before we go on. There's a lot of reused animation in this show, but at the same time, I can't really knock the show for doing that, because look at this show, you can tell it was expensive to make. This is almost on par with Incredibles. Almost. Not quite there. I'm not gonna be that generous, but it's up there. It's a really high quality show. You can tell a lot of money went into this, and they probably didn't have a lot of money to make new animations all the time, so they had to reuse a lot, because this show looks really expensive sometimes when they're not using 2D graphics or painted backgrounds or that bubble engine, those A1 bubbles. They used some in the first episode, and then they're like, you know what, we spent a lot on this bubble engine, therefore we are going to get our money's worth. We're going to have bubbles come back at least a couple more times this season. Making bubbles in 3D animation might be easy as hell, I don't know. I've never done 3D animation in my life, so I don't know. And also sometimes I notice that the dialogue is out of sync, and I think that's because it's animated to be dubbed in French, and then when they dub it in English, they don't bother to go back and reanimate it, because that's expensive. And I tested this theory out by switching the language to French, and I'm like, yeah, this syncs a lot better. But anyways, that was a tangent. Where was I? So Hawkmoth, he sends out his Akuma, and then they have to get an object away from whoever's affected by the Akuma, which is holding the Akuma, and then they break it, and then the Akuma flies out, and then Ladybug uncorrupts it, takes the evil out, and that goes out back to where it came from. And this, if it sounds really complicated, it is really complicated, and it's really confusing because they just throw you into it. Like I said, the origin episode does not come until towards the end of the first season, so you're just kind of playing catch up. You're expected to just kind of fall into this universe and figure out what's going on. Which, I mean, it's a kid's show, so it should be just easy to figure that out, but I don't know, I was lost. I was lost for a minute. I was sitting there trying to figure out, okay, that goes, alright. There's a lot of elements to this show. There's a lot going on, and it can get confusing. I honestly think they should have just opened with the origin episode would have just saved a lot of time I put into trying to figure out what's going on. In fact, if you're gonna watch this show, maybe just start with the origin episode, because then you won't be as lost. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe just stay safe and start from episode 1. Regardless, when Ladybug is not being Ladybug, she's Marinette, she's a teenage girl, she goes to high school, and she lives with her parents who are bakers, and she has a crush on this dude named Adrian, who I guess is like a super rich model, and he's also Cat Noir. But the thing is they don't know each other's secret identities. Like, she's working with Cat Noir, and she doesn't even realize that he's this guy that she's crushing on, and he doesn't know that Ladybug is Marinette in his class, and he's crushing on Ladybug, and he doesn't know it's the same person. And this makes me so angry. It makes me so angry because it's so obvious. It's not like she's Spider-Man. I mean, like, her powers and like the way that she like jumps from buildings and stuff is kind of like Spider-Man, but like she doesn't have a full face mask. Neither of them have like full face masks on. Like, you can clearly tell who it is. Like, they just have like form-fitting masks over their eyes. I mean, I guess Cat Noir also has cat ears and his eyes are like changed, but like, still, how do you not figure that out? Their voices are the same. Adrian even has the same feather allergy as Cat Noir. Like, how are these two not figuring it out? And also, there are a lot of points where it's like they're in the same place and then something bad happens and then they gotta go and transform. It's like, oh, we're both here, and also that person in our class is gone. Like, isn't that kind of suspicious? Like, they do question it in the show. They do question it sometimes, but I don't think they question it enough. And even then, it's still obvious. Like, there's even a point where Marinette's friend Alia, who's obsessed with the Ladybug and runs a blog about the Ladybug, she's even like, oh, maybe you're the Ladybug. And it's like, how do you say that, not think for 2 seconds, and then look at her and look at the Ladybug and be like, oh shit, yeah, you are Ladybug. Like, I miss Static Shock, because that was like the only show where everyone was like, Virgil, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, I'm Static Shock, and they're like, Virgil, you're the only one in town with dreads like that. Like, everyone knows it's you. Oh, hey everyone, Tom left. I'm Steve now. I'm hosting Let's Talk with Tom. Did I fool you? No, because you're not stupid. What the heck? That's the dumbest trope. I hate it. I hate it so much because it's so obvious. Like, I don't want to think that your characters are stupid, but at the same time, they're pretty stupid if they can't figure that out. Like, in everyday life, she's ready to faint in front of this guy, and then he dresses like a furry, and then she's making puns and bouncing dialogue like it's nothing. But at the same time, it worked. Their plan worked, because now I'm invested, because I want to see what happens when they figure out each other's secret identities. Like, the good in me wants to think like, okay, they're gonna figure it out, then they're gonna be like, oh, we've been in love this whole time. But also, Cat Noir hits on Ladybug a lot, and every time he does, she's like, really? This again? This guy is so annoying. Part of me just wants to see it happen, where she discovers his secret identity, and then she's like, oh, he's been corny this whole time. Well, time to find a new crush. I mean, that's so sad, but at the same time, that dramatic irony, though. The dramatic irony is like, it really hooks you in. Anyways, my critical perspective on this show is that objectively, it's above average. I would say, from a story and plotline perspective, it's above average, because it goes above and beyond what your average, villain of the week show is. The action is great. Everyone's powers have their strengths and their weaknesses. No one's unbalanced. And using the Akuma as a device to create bad guys, usually the villains that they're fighting against are good people who had some sort of injustice or tragedy happen to them, and then the Akuma took advantage of those negative feelings and misguided them in their vulnerable state. And it helps you empathize with, like, oh, these aren't bad people, they were taken advantage of. So you actually understand the motives of the villain, even though you realize that, like, what they're doing isn't right. I think that sends a good message to kids, where it's like, sometimes the people who seem bad aren't necessarily bad, they're just in a bad place. And deep down, they're still good people. And there are a lot of little positive messages in this show, which I'm like, yeah, that's good. It's a good thing. Although some episodes, they don't really do that. They're just kind of like, we need a villain. There you go. As far as the characters go, I wouldn't say they're like the greatest characters ever, but they're charming enough to where you actually care about them. Marinette, Ladybug, for example, the first couple episodes I watched, I thought she was kind of annoying, honestly. I was like, God. But then, like, she kind of won me over based on the fact that her character has a genuine desire to do what's right. And towards the later episodes, she genuinely screws up, and she usually takes responsibility for it. And I'm like, yes, 100%. There are a lot of times where protagonists will screw up, and that's never resolved. They're just like, oh, well, now my bullshit is out in the universe. But the fact that they actually have her redeem herself in some way and try and make things right, it's like you believe that this character is a good person. However, in that same vein, every time they beat an Akuma, all the damages, all the casualties that happen during the action, once they go through the whole process, that animation that they reuse every time, it feels like I'm playing Pokemon or something. After it happens, everything just goes back to normal. Like, all the casualties taken care of, all the bad things that happened just reversed. Like, everyone remembers it happened, but it's like, all the negative effects are gone. I mean, it's like, at least they address it. Sometimes with stuff like this, they don't even address it. And then when they do address it, it gets really dark, like with Marvel. A more popular example in the Marvel universe is Civil War, where Tony Stark had a mom come up to him and was like, yeah, my son died because of you, which was really dark and heavy. And kind of put in perspective that superhero movies cause a lot of damage and a lot of tragedy. My first realization of that was reading Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe, where the Avengers accidentally killed his family during a fight. And it's like an AU comic, so it's not canon. But like, they killed his family, and then he was like, alright, I'm gonna get revenge by killing all of you. And for me personally, that was the first time I realized, like, oh yeah, every single superhero story just causes tremendous amounts of just devastation that they never talk about. So at least they address it here, but it's really kind of a cop-out. Wave my hand and everything's back to normal. I don't know. I mean, at least they addressed it, though. Also, the mayor's family's name is Bourgeois, like bourgeoisie. Haha, I see what you did there, 'cause they rich. Overall, I think objectively, the show is above average, but I think it has elements that can really win you over. It's very engaging, it's good at getting people invested, and like, those are qualities that are very important for shows, and you see a lot of media that just can't hit those beats, and those beats are really important. So when a show can actually do that, like, I find that really admirable. So I've said everything I can possibly say about this show, so I'm just gonna till season 2 comes out, unless you guys are like, I don't want to hear about the show anymore, which that's fair. Hi, Steve is back.
It's always been Steve.
Thank you for watching Let's Talk with Tom on the Roundtable, but Tom isn't just on the Roundtable. I have my own self-titled personal channel, I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Snapchat, I have all that good stuff. In fact, I even have a Tumblr. So, if you're interested in any of that, check that out, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!